The Toronto Raptors may be entering the first year of their rebuild, but here's how they will make the playoffs in 2025. Let's get into it. The 2024-2025 season is supposed to provide the Raptors and their front office some sort of context as to what they really have with their roster, and as far as their core, how far they think they can really take them. What sort of players are missing? What sort of players are needed? How can they tinker to make the team better going forward? It has been said by Darko Rajakovic, Masai Ujiri, that this is the first year of the rebuild for the team. And it's nice to see that there is a full commitment from the organization to really try and reset this thing, rebuild after, it's been quite a few years now since the Raptors won the NBA championship in 2019, and it's been a little bit of a downward spiral with some minor spikes somewhere in between there, but it's been mostly a downward spiral for the Toronto Raptors, so it's nice to have that full sort of reset. That being said, this Toronto Raptors team certainly has some capabilities, and it certainly has enough capabilities, in my opinion, to still make the playoffs in 2025. Now, this is not some sort of proclamation and some sort of guarantee that this team is going to make the playoffs this season. However, there are some very realistic steps in which they can take in order to get to that point, and we're going to go over exactly what those are over the course of today's video on Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors content, and it should be a lot of fun content if this team is good enough to make the playoffs. Now, for starters, the Raptors, how good is this team actually? I've continued to say that this team is likely good enough on paper to win about 35 or so games. Now, they can be a little bit better than that, and they can be definitely a little bit to a lot worse than that. But as far as the actual talent this team has, 35 wins or so seems about fair to me. But the over-unders for this season for the Raptors have been set. Right now, they're at 30.5. And that basically is a question, is this team going to tank or not? Because if they're on pace for what I expect this team to be on pace for around February, which is 35 wins, they may decide, hey, Cooper Flagg's in the draft. We've seen what a player like Victor Wembanyama can do for an organization. Let's really try and put ourselves in a good position to at least try and get the player. And if not, we get some better consolation prizes than we've had in previous years where we haven't really committed to that tank maybe quite enough. However, if they're slightly above what I expect this team to be, about a 35-win team, then absolutely they could be challenging for a playoff position. Just because I expect them to be a 35-win team doesn't necessarily mean I expect them to win that many games, because I think if they're on pace for that, they will end up tanking. But again, if they're shooting above that sort of 35-win projection that I have, this team can make the playoffs. So what does it look like? What has to happen for this team to get into a playoff position? I think that as realistic as possible, if this is going to happen, it has to come through the play-in tournament. This is just really not going to be a top 6 team. The Eastern Conference, though it's not as good as the West, it has some real talent here. We have the Celtics. The Sixers should be a lot better this season. The Knicks seemingly have improved and have added Mikal Bridges. The Milwaukee Bucks should still be in the mix to be one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference. Miami's still there. Orlando's getting better. Indiana's getting better. That's already 17. It's going to be a complicated Eastern Conference. So the pathway to the playoffs has to come through the play-in tournament. And as much as I don't feel like the Raptors have really a lot of drive to get to that point to be a play-in tournament team, the first thing that has to go right for the Raptors here is just simply the conference has to be bad near the bottom, and it very likely is going to be very bad near the bottom. Just look at the sort of bottom feeder teams that we have for the Eastern Conference. Like the Raptors should comfortably be better than the Brooklyn Nets. They should comfortably be better than the Washington Wizards. Comfortably better than the Detroit Pistons. They should be a better team than the Charlotte Hornets. And then there's some other teams in the mix where you have to feel like, there's a reality where the Raptors can be better than the Atlanta Hawks. There's very much a reality where the Raptors are better than the Chicago Bulls. And then already that's 6 teams the Raptors can be better than, and all of a sudden they're looking at a 9 seed in the Eastern Conference. I feel like there's going to be some separation between the 9 seed and the 8 seed. There is, quite a bit of talent overall in the Eastern Conference near the top, as I said, but it's very reasonable to suggest that the Raptors don't even really have to be spectacular to get a play-in term position where they're playing their first game at home as the 9 seed. And honestly, with the caliber of teams that we're talking about here, it may only take something like 38, 39 win for the Raptors to get to that position. So if the East is bad and the Raptors have the drive to get to the play-in tournament position, then, anything can happen at that point when it's one and done games, and the Raptors can certainly vault themselves up into a playoff position through the play-in tournament. But also for the Raptors to be in such a position, or maybe even get to a point where they have a better chance in the play-in tournament, get to an 8 seed if another team perhaps falls off up higher in the Eastern Conference. What's going to happen for the Raptors to be successful on the floor to win that many games? Well, I think it goes without saying that we're going to have to see another spike in Scottie Barnes' development. Not a huge one here, but we're going to have to see a little bit more of a fine-tuning to Scottie Barnes' offense. And hey, for a 23-year-old that has already been an all-star, that's certainly something that is absolutely achievable. What I've been talking about on this channel through the summer is just I want to see a little bit more precision as an interior scorer to just up that field goal percentage. And I think that's certainly enough to get a player who's averaging last season 19.9 points per game. I think we can certainly see a reality where we're getting up to 22 points per game. RJ Barrett, if he continues as a scorer like this, he can get up to 23 points per game. Emmanuel quickly developing as a playmaker, and the role players just filling in nicely around that core, that top tier talent that the Raptors have on their team. That's certainly enough for the Raptors to start pushing and creeping up towards 40 wins, which in this conference might be enough for them to get a solid play-in tournament position. And hey, if things go really well from that point onwards, or they really make a push near the end of the season, maybe they get somewhere near 500, and then we are really talking about a team that can make that playoffs, make that top 8. Again, not a proclamation that they are going to do it, but again, here are the steps that realistically could unfold for the Raptors to get to that position. Realistically, we could see the East be very bad. We could see Barnes take the jump, RJ Barrett take a jump, Emmanuel quickly take a jump. These are all young players. Quickly's 25, Barrett's 24, Barnes is 23. Why can they not continue to get better with other young players like Grady Dick along with the organization? Well, the third thing might be low-key the biggest thing that needs to happen for this team. This team needs to stay healthy. And it's not just, the top-tier players that need to stay healthy. That's absolutely a given, but I think one of the kind of low-key players who needs to stay healthy is Jakob Poeltl. When he wasn't healthy last season, the Raptors were really bad. When he wasn't on the team the season prior for half the year, they were really bad and got a lot better when he was on the team. Jakob Poeltl is sneakily a very, very good center in the NBA. He's not going to stuff the stat sheet, with 20 points per game here, but he's a very solid and reliable double-double threat every single night where he gives you, 11, 12, 13 points, 10 rebounds, gets a couple of assists here and there as a great passer out of the high post. Good screen setter as well, can provide screen assists and just open up the game for the likes of the ball handlers like Emmanuel Quickly, Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett. But most importantly, what Jakob Poeltl provides is that defensive anchor. And the Raptors, when they have that defensive anchor, are so much better. Look at the record the Raptors had last season when Jakob Poeltl was not featuring. I keep going back to this, and I get there were injuries and they were tanking at certain points throughout his injuries last season, but it's extraordinarily clear that this team is a lot better when they have that presence defensively. It makes it easier for RJ Barrett to play defense. It makes it easier for Emmanuel Quickly to have his off-ball sense defensively, and it makes it so much easier for Scottie Barnes to be that help defense four that I continue to preach as being his best position on that end of the floor. Not to mention the young players coming off the bench like Grady Dick, like Jacoby Walter, and like some others potentially, maybe even Davion Mitchell we're talking about here. It makes it so much easier for those bench units to not leak all these points defensively when they have that anchor there. Now, he can't play 48 minutes per game. That would certainly be nice. The Raptors don't really have a backup to Jakob Poeltl as far as rim protection is concerned, so we'll have to manage the non-minutes there. But, we need to see the top guys stay healthy for sure. This can't be an injury-ridden season where they make the playoffs. But a low-key guy, which I wanted to specify for this video, is that Jakob Poeltl does need to be healthy for, I think, if we're talking about winning 40 games here, I really think Jakob Poeltl needs to be healthy for 67 plus, 70 plus would be fantastic overall over the course of the season. So, I'm not guaranteeing this team is making the playoffs. In fact, I don't think they will make the playoffs. However, there is a very realistic pathway where the Raptors can get to the play-in tournament position where anything can happen. Now, the reason I say that they don't think they will make the playoffs is because the prize of getting to the play-in tournament is you probably need to win 2 games in a row there, and then you likely get the Boston Celtics in the first round, where I hope they can win 1 game in that hypothetical series. What is a better option potentially for the Raptors? Look, I'm not saying tank out the gate. Go out the gate, try and win as many games as possible. Look, if we're on pace for 38, 39 wins, pump it up. Let's keep on trying to win games. But if we are on pace for 34, 35, even less, yeah, this upcoming draft class in 2025 is starting to look quite appealing. Maybe put your focus there. So what do you think of the Raptors' playoff chances for 2025? Give me all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That's all for me for today on the video. Make sure you do drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more content here from Amateur Sports all about the Raptors. And I will see you again next time for another video.